Today we're going to review how to create a supplemental or intensive behavior plan in MTSS Explorer. And I'm getting started by looking at my class list. I will scroll down until I find the student or group of students for which I'd like to create the plan. Highlight the student by clicking once, and then if you'd like, you can come up to the top and click Prioritize for that student or group of students to come to the top of the list. Once I've highlighted the student, you'll see that this button for Create Plan appears. I'm going to click that next. And as the system loads, I'm going to select Behavior, Social, Emotional for the plan creation. The student has a current plan in place as it is a test school and used for demo purposes. So I'm going to click in the current plan for our purposes. And then I'm going to create a Tier 2 supplemental plan for this student. This loads the Justification for Plan Change page, which is going to ask us under the heading of problem solving if we have gone through the steps of tips. Right underneath that, you'll see for behavior, you're to right-click this link, which will open in a separate tab. And this is the PTR problem solving form, which will walk us through the steps of tips for behavior. So I'll click there, and it's going to prompt me to make a copy so that there's a unique form for each student or group of students that's being problem solved. So I'll just click that once, and it will open up a copy of the form in Google. So at this point in the process, we can make the assumption that your team has met to problem solve the student or group of students, has filled in the demographic information at the top, and completed steps 1 through 4 on the PTR problem solving form. We're now going to go back into the tool and use the information listed on the form to populate the proper fields in Explorer. You'll use the red text on the problem-solving form to guide you in which information goes where within the tool. So I will go back into the system by just clicking on the tab for Explorer, Easy, and I can answer yes to the question of if we have problem solved using PTR. So I will select yes, and directly underneath, under the Justification heading, I will select Student Needs Additional Support as evidenced through our problem-solving process. It's then going to ask for the broad problem statement. If I go back into my problem-solving form, you can see the red field here says to copy and paste the response to Step 1 in MTSS Explorer, ECAT's MTSS statement box. So I will simply highlight the problem statement as I've defined it, copy, and paste within the open field. I will then save and continue. This loads the specific area of need for behavior, social, emotional plans, which is also defined as the function of behavior. If you look at the functions that are defined by DPI, you'll see that on the problem-solving form, we have organized them underneath the PTR functions that your team will determine through problem solving. For our example today, we've marked that the function for this student was to avoid an activity or item. Directly underneath that function, you'll see what it will be coded as in Explorer in red, which is avoid tasks. So I will mark Avoid Task in the system and select Save and Continue. Once I've selected the function within the tool, I'm now going to copy and paste the hypothesis statement into this field right here for Broad Problem Statement Hypothesis. So I'm going to go back into my problem-solving form and scroll down to the Hypothesis of Behavior section, where it will prompt me to copy and paste the hypothesis that the team developed into the tool. I'll highlight the text, copy, and paste into the correct box. This brings me to the instructional practices. I'll expand this section by clicking on the small plus sign and select each practice below for environment, curriculum, and instruction. We will now create the plan for avoiding tasks, and we do that by selecting the intervention begin date, which is populated in this field. And I have to click Save Date before the next process will open. I will now begin the process of selecting the specific intervention information from the form. I begin that by selecting first on the Prevent intervention, going directly to my form, highlighting the details provided in the Prevent box, and copy and pasting them back into the tool under the correct field. I will then specify the frequency, duration, person responsible, and group size for this intervention. Individual interventions will be listed as a group size of 1. So for this example, for provided choice, the frequency I'll have to estimate will be around 10 times a day. It only takes a moment to offer choice, so I will list 2 minutes. The person responsible would most likely be the regular education teacher, and it's going to be a group size of 1. I will continue on with the reinforce intervention and the teach intervention, using the same process that I did to move information from the behavior problem solving form. You might notice that in the tool, currently, the interventions are listed as prevent, reinforce, teach, whereas on the form, traditionally they are listed as prevent, teach, reinforce, or PTR. So please be aware of which intervention you are pasting into what specific field to ensure that you have the correct intervention listed in the correct field. So after I've entered my intervention descriptions and specified the details for each, I'm going to move down to the standard progress monitoring tool, which is the behavior rating. For the purposes of our example student today, we're going to select duration as the measure by clicking in the field. I will then move down to set the target date, which will be 4 to 6 weeks from today's date. That puts us into the first week of September. I then click the Set Target Date button, and you can see that the date populates here below. I need to fill in my baseline date and score, which will be today's date, with a baseline score of 4. The target date has already been set, and we're looking for a target score of 2. I'm then going to select Save Changes. After finalizing the behavior rating scale details, I'm going to click the Finalize Plan button, and the system will create the final plan. This brings me to the plan page. I want to show you how to create a document. Find the Create Document button on the right-hand side of the screen and click Create Document. This will lead you to select the appropriate function for which the plan was developed, and then click Create Document. This opens up a PDF for you to save or print for your records or to share with stakeholders. Lastly, I need to enter the BRS details into the student plan page in the field Student Plan Notes. I find those in Step 4, Evaluate, on the problem-solving form. I will simply copy and paste the scaled scores or anchor points and the measure I've selected back into the student plan notes so that whoever was looking at the data could understand how we had collected it. And I will then click Save Notes. When it is time to enter your progress monitoring data, click the button that says Show, Enter, Edit Data. This will open up fields for both date and score. Once you enter your date and scores, please click Save Scores to save that information. You can now see that once I return to the class page in Explorer, my student plans are listed at the bottom, with the one we just created listed under Group Social Emotional Behavior, Supplemental Avoids Tasks, with the student listed under here. When assessing the student's progress, I will always click to access the plan page, and any notes that I enter within the student notes fields will save and populate when printing the student plan page. You can see there are two buttons at the very bottom of the plan page. Modify Plan, which is where I would click if I needed to make any modifications to the student plan, and End Plan for all students, which is where I would click if I needed to exit the student from the plan officially. Thank you for tuning in for our video on plan creation for Tier 2 supplemental and Tier 3 intensive behavior plans.